Now, the ABC is meant by law to be impartial because we all have to fund it through our taxes. You, me, everyone, left, right, don't cares. Yet it's been hijacked by the left, as is clear from even its top stars, like Sarah Ferguson, who devoted 3 entire programs, you might remember, to pushing a total hoax that Donald Trump became US president by colluding with Russia. Last night, though, Ferguson, now host of the ABC 7:30, topped even that effort. She was supposed to be interviewing the federal opposition's energy minister, Ted O'Brien, about the opposition's plan to allow nuclear power in Australia. But she couldn't let him speak for even 15 seconds before interrupting him for the first of many times, after asking him a simple question, how long it would take to build a nuclear reactor here.
So the advice we've received from the best experts in the world is that small modular reactors could be constructed between about 3 to 5 years, large reactors 6 to 12 years.
I'm just going to stop you.
Ferguson then spent 50 seconds telling O'Brien how wrong he was before letting him talk for a few more seconds and then interrupting him again and again.
Just to finish my earlier response, construction 3 to 5 SMRs.
And that's small modular reactors.
3 to 5 years for small modular reactors. 6 to 12 years for large reactors. And as I was about to say, that is the advice of ANSTO. That is the advice of the Albanese government's nuclear agency.
Not from a standing start. So let's
construction, right? So before construction, you're right. You do need to stand up a regulator and so forth.
I'm just going to ask you a question now.
Can I answer that question?
Let me just say this one thing, because I think this is very important for the audience, and forgive me for interrupting there.
O'Brien must have been doing too well, because then came a Ferguson lecture suggesting he was actually a liar.
Being straightforward about the detail and not trying to snow people seems to be incredibly important. So why would you start off by saying, not here, but out there in making public statements that you can do it in under 10 years when you know you can't?
That's not true, Sarah, with all due respect.
And this time Ferguson let O'Brien speak for a whole 17 seconds, so generous, before interrupting him yet again when he dared to, oh no, criticise Labor's Energy Minister, Chris Bowen.
We are in a mess because we have somebody with one-liners trying to run the system.
To be fair to him, he was talking about a whole series of things. That was the thing that he says at the end.
That was specific to nuclear, Sarah.
Right.
And this is the issue, because we have a government right now who is refusing to have a mature debate.
All right,
I mean, let's have it. But let me make this point.
Yeah.
Australians right now are paying among the highest energy prices in the world. We already have blackouts, it's getting worse, and our renewables target is failing.
I have brought you in here to talk about nuclear energy, so let's not waste time talking about the government for the moment. No, I'm going to stop you there, because I want to talk about...
I will now shift to nuclear, but to make the point, that is the problem we need to solve.
Yes.
In comes zero emissions nuclear energy, not as a silver bullet.
Well,
Got to stop you making a criticism of Bowen on the government's record or the government's power play. Oh, no. I mean, joining me is Sophie Elsworth, media writer of the Australian newspaper. Sophie, I mean, how would you describe what you saw last night? Was it an interview? Was it a debate, actually? Was it maybe just a harangue, an ignorant, intolerant and biased shout-down? How would you describe it?
Well, Andrew, it was pretty difficult to comprehend as a viewer what Ted O'Brien was trying to get across, and it felt like, as a viewer, that Sarah Ferguson was badgering him rather than interviewing him. Now, this afternoon, I've looked at the ABC's editorial policies on interviewing styles, and it says, Andrew, you can interrupt when appropriate, but make sure you don't badger one interviewee and mollycoddle another. So I guess what we'd like to see is Climate Change Minister Chris Bowen on in the coming days to see if he gets similar treatment, Andrew. And also, I would like to see Paul Barry over at Media Watch unpack this interview, because I felt like this was one of the hardest interviews to watch with Sarah Ferguson. You couldn't understand what the Shadow Minister was really trying to prosecute, because she had this combative approach where she just kept interrupting him, Andrew, and that's not good for the viewers. It's not good for the subject matter. And I think the ABC need to say this is actually not okay. We pay for the ABC. We pay for the 7:30 report. And I'd argue that was a pretty bad interview.
Yeah, Ferguson spoke for half the time, half the interview time. Can you believe it? And you said, oh, you want to see Chris Bowen. The last time he was on, she ended the interview by saying, good luck. I mean, fair dinkum. Let's go back to the interview. There's still 6 minutes of it to go. Let's see if Ferguson has got around to letting O'Brien speak without heckling every time he's actually making a very good point.
We are looking at 90% of our baseload energy exiting the grid by 2034. So we're talking within a decade, 90% of our baseload energy gone because of Labor's policy settings. Now, Sarah, the lights will go out.
But hang on, are you saying
the lights will go out if that happens?
It is going to be coalition policy that you will keep those coal-fired power stations running longer than the dates that have been set in train now?
No, they're your words.
I mean, they're the decisions taken by the companies and the organisations that run those power stations, and they've set dates for them.
Let me clarify if I can. Is that all right?
Yes, of course.
It's just, how did you rate O'Brien's performance, by the way?
Well, I must say, Andrew, I thought he was pretty polite given the circumstances, but he didn't really have a chance to really get across what he was trying to argue. Had that been Peter Dutton, we've seen Peter Dutton call out the ABC numerous times for what he describes as bias. So this is a problem for the ABC, and this is where it must fall down to the news director, Justin Stevens. And I would expect, Andrew, that there'll be complaints to the ABC Ombudsman about that interview, because I do not think that was a fair interview. Whatever his views are, we don't have to agree with them, but let him get his side across and then challenge him on those points, sure. But I felt like that did not happen fairly.
No, she seemed to panic every time she was making a good point and wouldn't let him finish it. Sophie Elsworth, thank you so much for your time.